Do you feel as though your dream of purchasing your very own home will never become a reality? I came across this survey and it stated that more than 57% of residents don't believe they will ever be able to afford a home in their current city or town. To be totally honest with you, when I saw this article, the first thought that went through my mind was, here we go again. Another media post emphasizing negativity, focusing on what people can't do instead of what they can do. If you fall into this category, let's be honest with ourselves for a minute here. Can you honestly say that you've been doing everything that you possibly can to reach your goal of home ownership? Or did you try for a little while and decided to give up because things became too tough? And it's much easier to put blame on what's happening in the economy right now. Just think about that for a second. You can either choose to join the more than 57% of residents, remain stuck and on the sidelines, or you can stay tuned with me to determine what you can do to achieve home ownership if that's what your goal is. In this video, I'll provide you with 5 tips that many of my clients have taken to get them into the market, and I'll share with you some of the things that I have done personally in order to not only purchase my first home, but multiple properties. Be sure to stay tuned to the end because tip 5 is a game changer. Now, if you're looking for a quick magic solution, then this video isn't for you. This process will take time and sacrifice, but if you keep persistent and driven, I guarantee you'll get to your goal sooner than later. Please don't forget to subscribe if you would like to continue to watch more content like this. And please feel free to leave me a comment. Maybe share some tips you have been using to help you save for your home purchase. Or if you've already purchased a home, maybe you can share some tips that worked for you and that could ultimately help someone else that's watching. The rise in home prices, increase in interest rate, and inflation are all factors that can make purchasing a home more challenging, but not impossible. We all have heard the saying, there's no success without sacrifice. Well, home ownership is no different. This process will require you to spend less than you earn, make sacrifices, and will take some time. There's no magic trick that'll get you to that goal tomorrow. But if you want this investment bad enough, you can and will do what it takes to get there. With that being said, let's get right into the tips that are going to help you achieve your home ownership goal. Number 1, evaluate your finances and save for a down payment. In order for you to get to your goal of home ownership, you need to know what will be required of you to get there. So what I mean by this is, in order for you to be able to be a homeowner, you need to know what your financial status looks like in order to determine if you meet the requirements in the first place. And if you do meet the requirements, you then need to know how much you qualify for so that you know approximately how much down payment you will need to save. Being in a strong enough financial position to put money aside for a down payment is the first and most important step of being on the road to home ownership. What I advise my client to do is to get in touch with a lender or mortgage broker to help you determine how much you can afford. Once you have determined how much you qualify for, you can then determine the minimum down payment amount you'll need. Here in Ontario, you'll need to have at least 5% down payment for a purchase price under $500,000. For houses between $500,000 to $1 million, your minimum down payment will have to be 5% on the first $500,000 and then 10% on the remaining amount. Finally, for any houses over $1 million, your minimum down payment has to be 20%. It's important to note that if you put less than 20% down, you'll have to pay into the CMHC insurance premium. I will provide you with a link in the description box down below, and that will take you to a down payment calculator so you can easily see the breakdown on the different down payment percentages. Every individual situation is unique, so as I mentioned, the best way to determine what your financial profile looks like is to get in touch with a financial expert. That way they can provide you with advice and guide you towards your goal of purchasing your home. They will also be able to provide you with current government incentive programs that are available and rebates, and also educate you on additional closing costs associated with the purchasing of a home, so that you'll know exactly what to expect and can be prepared. Once you've determined your financial profile and what you can afford, now you have a better idea of how much you need to save. So when I was saving for my first home, reducing my expenses was a big part of helping me save for my down payment. I had set a goal for myself of saving $4,000 each month, and that came from some of my paycheck and the rest from savings that I made throughout reducing my monthly expenses. I had to make huge sacrifices, but I knew that they were temporary and it will be well worth it in the long run. Also, on top of reducing expenses, another step many of my clients and myself have taken to really increase savings is to temporarily live with family members. I know, it's not an ideal situation, but it's a great way to help save a lot of money if your family is willing to help you out. Many of my clients have gone from renting to temporary living with family. It saved them an average of $3,000 a month. And in total, if you look at that, that's a total savings of $36,000 a year. Now, I know some of you watching might say, oh, this is not an option for me, because you might not have family in the area, or you might not have family members that are willing to take on this type of living arrangements. And that's totally understandable. If that's the case, perhaps you can look into downsizing the rental property that you're currently living in so that you're not paying as much rent and you're able to put more towards saving. Keep in mind, these are just temporary sacrifices. If you use several of these saving tips at the same time, the faster you'll achieve your financial goals and get into the market. Tip number 2, building your credit score. Your credit score is an important tool that lenders use in evaluating your financial profile. Therefore, building it up is a crucial part of obtaining a mortgage for your home purchase. So ideally, your credit score needs to be at least 600. But the higher your credit score, obviously, the more lending options you have, and mortgage lenders are more willing to provide you with a loan. With that being said, you need to build your credit score before you even consider buying a home. So what I did was I applied for a credit card as soon as I could qualify for one. This way I could start making purchases on it and pay them off on time in order to start building my credit. And in order to help me make sure that I had no late or missed payments, I found it helpful to set up automatic payments. Just make sure that your bank account always has sufficient funds. Whatever form of loan you have, whether it's a credit card or a line of credit, for example, you want to make sure that it is not maxed out. If you use a larger portion of your available credit, lenders tend to see you at greater risk. So to avoid that, you want to try to use less than 35% of your available credit. So for example, if your available credit is $15,000, try not to borrow more than $5,250 at a time. Pay close attention to this point. It's extremely important that you do not make any big purchases like financing a new car. This is the worst thing that you can do before qualifying for a mortgage because it'll negatively affect your credit score. I've had clients make this mistake because they did not think it would be a big deal and they ended up having to learn the hard way and not qualifying for the loan. Tip number 3. Having a stable income. Along with a good credit score, having a stable income source will make obtaining a mortgage much easier. Lenders will make sure that you have been at your current job for at least 2 years. If not, you'll not be approved. So keep this in mind prior to you starting the home purchase process. I had a client that thought changing over to a higher paying job would actually work to her advantage because she thought she would qualify for more. But the current job change ended up hurting her in the end. She could not qualify because she started that new job about a week before she went for her pre-approval. So she ended up having to put her home search on hold. Tip number 4, determining where to buy. So now that you've determined how much you qualify for, you now need to decide where makes the best sense to buy. So factors such as commute time, public transportation, neighborhood amenities, and schools tend to be the top of mind for many home buyers, but nowadays, affordability tends to trump all of these. Many of my clients, including myself, had to leave our hometowns to seek other neighborhoods where housing was more affordable. I left my hometown of Scarborough to move to Durham because houses there were much more affordable. My commute to work was longer. Instead of traveling 30 minutes from Scarborough to Toronto, it took me about an hour from Ajax now. But that was the sacrifice I was willing to take in order to get into the market and be a homeowner. Based on your unique circumstances, you'll need to come up with a game plan on what factors you'll have to sacrifice in order to get you into the market. You may have to adjust your preferences in order to reach the goal of home ownership, but remember, most don't start off in their dream home, and it's about getting into the market that will open up so many more doors and opportunities. Finally, tip number 5. Now, if you haven't taken anything away from this video, you're going to want to pay attention to this tip because it will change your life and be the stepping stone to opening up the doors to building wealth. Buy a property with income potential. Don't just be a home buyer, but be a landlord as well. This has to be the smartest piece of advice for home buyers, especially those starting off. When shopping for a property, look for something with income potential. For example, look for a home that has a separate entrance. This way, you can look into transforming the basement into an apartment that you can rent out for income. This might mean paying more for the house up front, but renting a portion of it out could actually pay for itself in the long run. So if you're a couple, for example, and you can manage a smaller living space because it's just the two of you, why not rent out the upper part of your home because it's a larger living space and you can make more money than in comparison to the basement? So for example, this way, instead of making an average of $1,200 a month on rent for the basement, you can now make $1,800 a month by renting out the upper unit, and that way you pocket more money. But if this doesn't work for you and you're a bigger family and you need more space, then that's okay. Live on the main floor and rent out the basement. Either way, by renting out part of your home, that extra income is paying for the majority, or if not, your entire mortgage. Yes, this does mean sacrificing having your entire house to yourself, but look at all the potential you have. It's the perfect way to build equity. The purpose of this video is not to convince you to buy if that's not your goal, but rather it's to stop you from focusing in on the noise that's preventing you from getting there. There'll be many times where we're faced with obstacles that make things more challenging, or we might be waiting for the perfect timing, but we all know there's no such thing. Despite the rising interest rates and increase in cost of living, now is actually showing to be the time buyers do have a chance to get into the market. There's a slowdown in competition, meaning buyers are not faced with ridiculous bidding wars, so homes are actually going closer to asking price, giving you a chance to purchase and win without getting outbid. Job opportunities are not scarce, giving you the ability to temporarily take on multiple jobs in order for you to increase your saving if need be. And lastly, since it is anticipated that we will face more interest rate hikes, why not get locked into a lower rate now? Do you see what I'm doing here? Instead of looking at all the factors that we cannot control or just focusing in on the negative, I'm instead finding ways on how to make the goal of purchasing a home happen, despite the current circumstances. Don't get lost in all the noise and negativity. Analyze your unique situation to determine what you need to do to push toward achieving your goals. If I can do it, so can you. If you need any assistance, please feel free to reach out to me or any trusted real estate professionals. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.